Namaste. Good evening. We are once again gathering here for the second session of last Friday, wherein Sister Sonal had taken the session on the letters, Mahatma letters. Part 1 she had conducted, and she'll be doing the part 2. And we would start with the universal invocation. Then I'll give a brief introduction of the speaker, and we'll take it up. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. So in this Indian sections Friday study class, wherein we are reading Mahatma letters, today we will refer to the Mahatma letters from the book Mahatma Letters to Sinnet, the Appendix-II, View of the Chohan and the TS, which was edited by Brother Vic. Part 1 we already discussed last Friday. Today is the part 2 to be conducted by Sister SONAL MURLI. We all know her as the director, Adyar Theosophical Academy, and she has joined the TS at a very early age of 19. She started reading At the Feet of the Master, and after her studies in English literature, and also she worked for a decade with a Krishnamurti school, wherein she has already imparted education to a lot many children. Also, after that, she took up teaching unprivileged children in various parts of the country. So she is an example of a value-based teaching, moral-based teaching, and currently when she is celebrating her 6th anniversary of the school, the Adyar Theosophical Academy in June, this is the right time we are listening to her. And I once again congratulate her for her all efforts, endeavors she has been doing. It's not about just education. She has done a lot of publication work for magazines. She has founded Beauty Without Cruelty, Chennai chapter, and she has conducted many outreach programs for awareness for animal rights. She is a living theosophist, and let us hear her out on the part 2 of the Appendix-II. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Sundalinda. If you can make me co-host.
Sure. You want to present, right?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, it's up to you now.
Yeah.
I just made it.
So we are going to consider today the part 2 of Chohan's letter. And as I had said last time, Madam Blavatsky considered this Chohan's letter the charter for the Theosophical Society, which outlines the society's mission and ethical framework. And how, just a little bit of introduction for those who were not there last time, how this letter came about is that AP Sinnet and AO Hume, they frequently kept suggesting to Master KH that they knew the Western society better than them, and that the demonstration of psychic powers by indisputable phenomena, that is the only primary way to influence the Western society. And so they wanted to change the society's mission, and they felt that they knew the world, what the world requires, and that, and they were constantly posting about reforming the nature of the Theosophical Society. It is at this time that Master KH went to Chohan. He was frustrated, he was exhausted by answering and responding to these two gentlemen who were quite proud in their own way. Now, this letter, it actually summarizes the discussion that Master KH had with the Chohan. And Master M says that this is an abridged version of the Chohan's view. Um, there is no original copy of this letter that has ever been found. What we have is in AP Sinnet's handwriting. And the first time the letter was revealed when HPB quoted from it in August 1888 in Lucifer. And then subsequently, she has quoted extensively from it, and other people have also quoted from that. Now, this letter, why is it so important? Because in that, several reasons are given as to why the Theosophical Society should be a brotherhood of humanity. It should be a real universal fraternity. And this is the primary objective and mission of the Theosophical Society. A little bit about Mahachohan. Mahachohan is one of the three great adepts who form the what is called the triangle of the great hierarchy. And he's the great Chohan or the great master. HPV calls him Paraguru or Param Guru, that is master's master or the supreme teacher. So he is in that sense an authority. He is the overlord to Master M and to all other masters. He is the guardian of the rules of the hierarchy and the referee to whom the masters must submit every question of doubt. See, Jinaraj says, to him the future lies like an open book. And here we will have a look at um, the Mahachohan's letter in Sinnet's handwriting. Uh, this is how it looks. Now, what we have covered so far is it starts with the importance of the Buddha in the hierarchy. Um, Mahachohan says that for our doctrines to react to the so-called moral code or the ideas of truthfulness, purity, self-denial, charity, etc., we have to preach and popularize a knowledge of theosophy, which is not the individual and determined purpose of attaining oneself nirvana, which is after all only an exalted and glorious selfishness, but the self-sacrificing pursuit of the best means to lead on the right path our neighbor, to cause as many of our fellow creatures as we possibly can to benefit by it, which constitutes the true theosophy. Here we spoke about the two paths, the path of nirvana and the path of service, the path of bodhisattva. There is a mention of people imprisoned in the grooves of bigotry and superstition, and on the other hand, brutal materialism. And Mahachohan says that between these two, the spiritual dimension is left out. The world is going deeper into the age of Kali Yuga and spiritual darkness, and the white dove of truth with its weary wings and unwelcome foot has no place to rest. It is in these times that the Theosophical Society has to keep the flame alive. This is what we have studied so far. And here he also says that it is time that Theosophy should enter the arena. And he makes the important statement that the Theosophical Society was chosen as the cornerstone, the foundation of the future religion of humanity. Cornerstone is very important because on that the foundation rests. And he also gives the practical application of it, the benevolent intermingling of the high and the low, the alpha and the omega of society. He says the privileged must stretch out their hands and help the not so privileged. Because he was writing in 1880, he speaks about the white who should stretch out their hand of fellowship to the dark nations. He calls them the poor and despised nigger brothers. But in today's times, we can look at it that discrimination still exists, probably not in that form, and it still applies to the privileged, um, who must stretch out their hands and help the not so privileged. He asks that except the soothing influence of a brotherhood, what other practical application of Buddha's esoteric doctrine could work? And this is how the context is set, and we take it further on from here. Now, this is what Chohan says. For as everyone knows, the total emancipation from authority of the one all pervading power or law called God by the theists, Buddha, divine wisdom, and enlightenment or theosophy by the philosophers of all ages, means also the emancipation from that of human law, once unfettered and delivered from the dead weight of dogmatic interpretations, personal names, anthropomorphic conceptions, and salaried priests, the fundamental doctrine of all religions will be proved identical in their esoteric meaning. And this, of course, we know very well how the interpretation of the truth uh, changes the truth entirely, and it no longer remains the truth. All the anthropomorphic conceptions where human beings want to see God as human beings and in their own light. The salaried priests who would interpret it to exploit the masses. When you remove all this, then they are identical in their esoteric meaning. Osiris, Krishna, Buddha, Christ, they'll be shown as different means for one and the same royal highway to final bliss, which is nirvana. It is just the names which are different. And the liberated Paramatma is called by one group of people as Christ, by another group of people as Buddha. And it is the same truth as nirvana or esoteric Buddhism. Now, what do we do towards this? He's put it in very, very simple words. Mahachohan says that all of us have to get rid of our own ego, the illusory apparent self. Apparent means it is not really the self, but apparently we identify with it. To recognize our true self in a transcendental divine life. But if we would not be selfish, we must strive to make other people see the truth, to recognize the reality of the transcendental self, the Buddha, the Christ, or God of every preacher. Again, we go back to the two paths that we spoke about, and the other path where the liberated being does not have any self interest and wants to uh, enter the path of service, there we must strive to make other people see the truth. Once you have realized the truth, once you have seen the truth, and once you have been emancipated, the only wish that you can have is to see that others, that you help others do the same thing. We must not just recognize the divine in ourselves, but help others to see it too. And he says this is the real purpose of the Theosophical Society. He emphasizes the keynote of compassion. inspired by the life and teachings of Gautam Buddha. Compassion is unconditional. Compassion does not choose. There is no choice in compassion. Jesus said that love your enemies and bless those that curse you, and pray for those that despitefully use you. He says, love your enemies and bless those that curse you, and pray for those that despitefully use you. Buddha also said that hatred never overcomes hatred. Only love overcomes hatred, and that is the eternal law. All the religions say the same thing. And it is a great test for us to overcome dislike for certain people or people with certain ideologies. Now, this is a barrier that we have to overcome. That is the way to recognize our true self. See, Jinraj Das says that Mahachohan reveals our fundamental defect. Even when we are seekers of truth and servers of mankind, there is an element of selfishness in our plans and actions, and there is some kind of self interest in a very, very subtle way that remains with all of us, though we may consider ourselves that we are utterly altruistic. When the idea of the self, our self, has faded out of our dreams and our work, and that necessitates much suffering as our self is broken upon the wheel of our karma. This is what C. Jinradha says. And we serve the great self, whether we call it God or humanity, or the Savior to whom we offer our devotion, with no thought of recognition or reward here upon earth or in heaven to come. When in our lofty contemplations of service, we as the self disappear. This is where he has given more explanation of what Mahachohan has said when he says that all of us have to get rid of our ego, the illusory apparent self. And then, of course, in a more nuanced manner, C. Jinrat Das has explained that when the idea of self has faded out of our dreams and our work, for whatever work we do, there is always somewhere a subtle sense of the intention of why it is done and what effect it will have and why we have done it, whether it's fulfilled or not. He says, when no thought of recognition or reward here upon earth or in the heaven to come, when in our lofty contemplations of service, we as the self disappear, then only truly the self disappears. In A Voice of the Silence, the second path mentioned is the path of selfless service. The path of Bodhisattva is characterized by compassionate action. Blavatsky encourages seekers to be compassionate and to be non judgmental. Now, this non judgmental is quite a difficult thing. If we examine ourselves, we will see that in very, very subtle ways, there are judgments even while helping or doing a compassionate action. There are people who take pride in the fact that they have resources so they can help others. And this could be very, very subtle form of a feeling that one has. There are many subtle intentions that may be hiding under our actions. For getting rid of our delusional self, we'll have to confront our attachments. We'll have to confront our illusions, confront our doubts, and pour our energies into realizing the power of compassion, because compassion has a power. We'll have to pour our energies into meditation and into selfless action. And this is what will help us to transcend the duality of the material world. Theosophy gives us a very wholesome kind of approach, and it is an approach that is incremental in nature. It is every day, it is moment to moment, whenever one becomes aware to to understand oneself. What are the motivations? Why am I doing it? What are the thoughts that are coming? What are the reactions and what are the responses that I am all the time having? Last time we spoke about the grooves in which we are stuck. And so it's same kind of thoughts, it's same kind of habits in which we keep on going round and round like the pin of the gramophone record. C.W. Ledbetter has said in his book Soul's Growth Through Reincarnation that there could be souls who, for incarnation after incarnation, might be repeating the same pattern again and again and again, because in the pattern there is a comfort, and um, and there is the kind of force of pattern that just takes over one, and we think that this is what we are doing, but actually it is the same action again and again and again. Now, the master says here that for getting rid of our delusional self, we'll have to confront all this. We'll have to confront our attachments, because it's the attachments which make us identify with the matter, the lowest physical plane in which the consciousness is functioning. So we have to confront our attachments, we have to confront our illusion, the illusion that this is me, this is real. The sense of self is very strong, and we consider it that it is real. And then we have to pour our energies into realizing the power of compassion, meditation, and selfless action. And this is what will help us to transcend the duality of the material world. How is the world today? Chohan says that as we find the world now, whether Christian, Muslim, or pagan, justice is disregarded, and honor and mercy both flung to the winds. And I think the situation may not be very different today. The reason being is that human beings are the same. And so, in one sense, we might say that we have progressed, but the progress only remains in the materialistic sense of the word, and not in the psyche of the human being. He says that justice is disregarded and honor and mercy both flung to the winds. Mahachohan says, are we to deal with the rest of mankind, with that curse known as the struggle for the life, which is the real and most prolific parent of most woes and sorrows and of all the crimes? Why has the struggle become the almost universal scheme of the universe? Struggle for life, struggle for survival, this is something that we have inherited biologically. It is there in our DNA. And Mahatohan says that this is the real and most prolific parent of most woes and sorrows. So from this is generated all the sorrows and all the crimes. Why has the struggle become the almost universal scheme of the universe? And the reason this has become the universal scheme of the universe is that we take this life to be real. That which is fleeting, which is temporal, which does not have any continuity, and which is unreal, we take it to be real. And so it has to end in dukh, it has to end in sorrow, it has to end in suffering. Buddhism teaches a practical contempt for this earthly life. The end result of this identification with that which is not real. Attachment, the savoring of the sensory pleasure and gratification, is dukh. It results in dukh, it results in sorrow, and it results in suffering. This is the inevitable outcome of identifying with that which is illusory, which is with that which is transient, and with that which has a temporal nature. Asat. Asat is that which is not real, or that does not endure. Sat endures, and Sat is real, whereas Asat is not real and it does not endure. Just like a fly that is caught in a web or trapped in a web, we are caught in the web of delusion. We are entrapped in this sansar. We are ensnared. We are enamored by it and deluded. The Mahachohan says, teach the people to see that life on this earth, even the happiest, is but a burden and an illusion, that it is but our own karma, the cause producing the effect, that is our own judge, our savior in future lives, and the great struggle for life will soon lose its intensity. He says, teach the people to see that the life, even the happiest, is only a burden and it is only an illusion. And it is our own karma, the causes that we have released and unleashed, it is producing the effect, and that becomes our own judge or our savior in future life. Once we understand that, then the great struggle for life will soon lose its intensity. The struggle for life that he spoke about in the previous lines, he says, what can be done so that this loses its grip on you? It does not make you do all your actions towards the struggle for life. Now he says in very strong words in the second paragraph, shall we devote ourselves to teaching a few Europeans fed on the fat of the land, many of them loaded with the gifts of blind fortune, the rationale of bell ringing, cup growing, of the spiritual, telephone, and astral body formation? Do we do this? Should we do this? On and leave the teeming millions of the ignorant, of the poor and despised, the lowly and oppressed, to take care of themselves and of their hereafter the best they know how? And the answer is never. And he says, perish rather the Theosophical Society with both its hapless founders, that we should permit it to become no better than an academy of magic and hall of occultism. Very strong words used by the master. And in no uncertain terms, he speaks of altruism, which is at the core of the Theosophical Society. He says there can be no compromise in this. Rather, it is better that the Theosophical Society perishes. The expression of wisdom is in right action. The society does not exist for entertaining the few privileged. The master calls them loaded with the gifts of blind fortune. A fortune which is blind, and it has bestowed them with gifts that they do not deserve. And in contrast to that, we have teeming millions of people who are ignorant of the poor and despised, the lowly and the oppressed, to take care of themselves and of their hereafter. Now, here the words that are used, ignorant, The word ignorant also applies to the few Europeans who are fed on the fat of the land. So I think these words are used more in a figurative way of the poor and the despised. People who are despised by the privileged people who are loaded with the gifts of the blind fortune, the lowly and the oppressed, to take care of themselves and of their hereafter the best they know how. So I think this is some of these words could apply to both the parties. The lowly, for example, you could also say that the Europeans are lowly as far as their value system is concerned and their character is concerned. So these are used more in the figurative sense of the term. The basic idea is that the Theosophical Society has to reach its message to all those people, to everybody. The members have to keep this in their minds and in their heart. The propagation of Theosophy is to uplift everyone that we come in contact with, and it need not be by didactic teaching or preaching, but by the flavor of our lives and our actions. And this is something that everybody can do if we are really living the theosophical life and we are really contemplating and looking at our own actions and doing the right thing by the world. I think then whoever we come in contact with, they will be touched in some way or the other. The master further emphasizes, he says that we, the devoted followers of the Spirit incarnate of absolute self sacrifice, of philanthropy, divine kindness, as of all the highest virtues attainable on this earth of sorrow, the man of men, Gautama Buddha, should ever allow the Theosophical Society to represent the embodiment of selfishness, the refuge of the few with no thought in them for the many, is a strange idea, my brothers. Gautam Buddha is the spirit incarnate of absolute self sacrifice, as mentioned in Jataka tales. He has been called the ultimate example in self sacrifice, who feeds his own body to a starving tigress. I think this was one supreme example in Jataka tales. And apart from this, his countless acts of compassion, they remind us of the interconnectedness of all beings, where he did not have any thought of himself. Whoever was suffering, he felt that suffering, and whatever he could do, he did without any single thought about his own survival. Compassion and ethical conduct have a transformative power in both the doer and the receiver. Gautam Buddha, the spirit incarnate of philanthropy, where only the welfare of the others is at heart. The spirit incarnate of divine kindness. This is how Chohan is describing him. These have been termed by the Chohan as the highest virtues attainable on this earth of sorrow. If the Theosophical Society were to degenerate into the refuge of the few, with no thought in them for the many, he says, is a strange idea, my brothers. HPB had often warned about the consequences of not putting the essential teaching of brotherhood into practice. There's an article she has written, Our Cycle and the Next. And in that article, she states, this might be paraphrased and not the actual quote. If theosophy prevailing in the struggle, its all embracing philosophy strikes deep roots into the minds and hearts of men. Its doctrines of reincarnation and karma, in other words, of hope and responsibility. Find the hope in the lives of new generations. Then indeed will dawn the day of joy and gladness for all who now suffer and their outcasts. For real theosophy is altruism, and we cannot repeat it too often. It is brotherly love and unswerving devotion to truths. I think these are very important words by Madame Blavatsky. For real theosophy is altruism, and we cannot repeat it too often. It is brotherly love and unswerving devotion to truth. If once men do but realize that in these alone can true happiness be found, and never in wealth, never in possessions, nor in any selfish gratification, then the dark clouds will roll away and a new humanity will be born upon earth. Then the golden age will be there indeed. The dark clouds of selfishness, of self interest, of Kali Yuga, of materialism, they will roll away. They have now occluded our vision. And when they roll away, a new humanity will be born upon earth. Then the golden age will be there indeed. And this is what Chohan has said in the letter, that theosophy is to be the cornerstone of the foundation of the future religion where a new humanity is born, where theosophy is altruism and there is brotherly love and devotion to truth in respect to all the people that we come in contact with. The Mahachohan also speaks about Avalokiteshvara. He says the incarnations of Bodhisattva, Padmapani or Avalokiteshvara, and of Tsongkhapa, that of Amitabh, relinquish at their death the attainment of Buddhahood, the summum bonum of bliss, and of individual personal felicity, that they might be born again and again for the benefit of mankind. Now, what does it mean to be born again and again? What kind of sacrifice are they doing? That comes in the second paragraph. That to be born again and again means to descend into the lowest material sphere for the highest consciousness which is awakened in that sphere, to be subjected to misery of the earthly existence, to be imprisoned in flesh and all the sorrows of life, right from the time of being born. They would do this if by their self sacrifice throughout long and dreary centuries. I mean, this has been told to us only to put it in context that long and dreary centuries, they might become the means of security or salvation and bliss in the hereafter for just a handful of men. And I think this is something that we have heard again and again from Theosophical Society and from J. Krishnamurti also, that if there were just three people that he made a difference to in their lives who got transformed, the world would be transformed. So it's a handful of men, and that can take again centuries for them, for their salvation, and for them to have bliss in the hereafter. And for that, they would sacrifice their summum bonum of bliss, their forever bliss, and they would choose and opt to be born again and again, to descend into the lowest material sphere and to be imprisoned in flesh and go through all the sorrows of life. The Mahachohan asks that they who are the humblest disciples of these perfect lamas, the Mahatmas who are the humblest disciples of these perfect lamas, are expected to allow the TS to drop its noblest title. This is what Sinnet and Hume were asking them. And he says that, are you asking us to do this? the noblest title of brotherhood of humanity to become a simple school of psychology. No, no, good brothers. I think this is something that all the lodges should also remember while planning their um, programs, and this becomes a very good guideline for everybody in our own personal lives and in our work for the Theosophical Society. The Master says very clearly, he says, he who does not feel competent enough to grasp the noble idea sufficiently to work for it need not undertake a task too heavy for him. And they need not undertake the task, they can leave. Only those who feel competent enough to first grasp the noble idea, understand the noble idea, and then understand it sufficiently to work for it. He said earlier also that he is no theosophist who objects to this principle. If a theosophist who actually propagates the idea, and if that noble and unselfish man can help us effectually in India in the divine task, then the Master says that all of our knowledge, past and present, would not be sufficient to repay him. They would be so grateful if there is a person, if there is a theosophist who actually propagates the idea, and if they can help us in India in this divine task. The Mahachohan concludes the letter. He says, to be true, religion and philosophy must offer the solution of every problem. That the world is in such a bad condition morally is a conclusive evidence that none of its religions and philosophies, those of the civilized races less than any other, have ever possessed the truth. The right and logical explanations on the subject of the problems of the great dual principles, which are right and wrong, good and evil, liberty and despotism, pain and pleasure, egotism and altruism, are as impossible to them now as they were 1881 years ago. They are as far from the solution as they ever were. To these there must be somewhere a consistent solution. And if our doctrines will show their competence to offer it, then the world will be the first one to confess that must be the true philosophy, the true religion, the true light which gives truth and nothing but the truth. This is where the letter ends. The Mahachohan reveals what is our objective and what are the tasks which we are to achieve. It is to discover by constant searching of religion, science, philosophy, and of all men's works are the great dual principles, right and wrong, good and evil, liberty and despotism, pain and pleasure, egotism and altruism. He says our task as theosophists is intensely ethical. Not ours the goal to develop occult powers, nor gather more knowledge merely for the sake of knowledge, nor even to worship divinity because that gives a supreme personal happiness. Ours the task to discover the solutions, not of our ills, but of the ills of mankind as a collectivity, and to reveal the true philosophy, the true religion, the true light which gives truth and nothing but the truth. I think this is very important in explanation that our task is to discover the solutions not of our own personal ills but of the ills of mankind as a collectivity, and to reveal the true philosophy, the true religion, the true light which gives truth and nothing but the truth. All religion, all science, Every philosophy and all the arts are the field of our operations where we can find truth. Whatever we are doing, whichever area we are, whatever is our occupation, whatever is our daily life, I think there we can find truth. But we must seek the truth in order that by giving it, we can make the solidarity of mankind the supreme, the overmastering fact of facts in all men's consciousness. At some other place, it has been said, as I had said, that so long as there are three men worthy of our Lord's blessing in the Theosophical Society, it can never be destroyed. Now, why is this letter so important? As I said, um, that this sort of gave a charter to the Theosophical Society when the two of these prominent members were trying to make the entire mission uh, completely different. And the master gives many, many reasons why the brotherhood of humanity is the prime doctrine that they promulgate. The vision of men, events, and things which characterizes every adept, as revealed in the letters, um, are very important because they are of these beings who live in the eternal, and they have before them, the masters have before them the plan of evolution as it shall be, and so they can see, their vision is such that even the most advanced of men do not have. And Mahachohan is more so because he is looking at it, his vision is much more vaster. It is as if from a loftier plane, and from that summit, he can see all mankind spread out before him. And there are no secret hidden corners which are uh, not revealed. And that is why C. Jindal Das says that Mahachohan, to whose inside the future lays open like an open book. The letter is very clear that the Theosophical Society was founded by a hierarchy with the Buddha as its head. He is one in a series of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that appear cyclically and are concerned with the welfare of the world. But Buddha, Gautam Buddha, is the first flower of this human cycle on earth, and hence the importance to his teachings. They watch over this planet, and at certain times, when they feel it is needed, they send someone into the world to try and help us to become aware of our divinity. HBB has said that in the last quarter of each century, there will be a spiritual impulse. It can take the form of a person who comes and gives the teachings. It could be a group of people who, for example, started the Theosophical Society, or it could be just a spiritual outpouring in general. Unfortunately, we have already missed it. So some of us won't be there till 2075 when another uh, spiritual outpouring will happen. But overall, we can see that there is a rise in the number of spiritual movements worldwide. The lessons we could all learn from this letter, um, as theosophical students and members, is that whatever we do, the motivation of brotherhood should be at the center of it. We are supposedly forming a nucleus of the universal brotherhood and setting an example in the world of what such a brotherhood is like. That is the main aim of the Theosophical Society. It is not an academy of magic, of occultism, or of gaining knowledge about everything, but that we spend our time and energy cultivating brotherhood and tolerance for others. If at all we gain knowledge, it is only so that we can understand this and we can um, create the brotherhood, the fraternal universal brotherhood. Compassion and love are the traits that we should develop first and foremost. In the voice of the silence, it is said that even ignorance is better than head learning with no soul wisdom. And since the time of this letter, which came in 1880, we can easily still say that the rich have gone on accumulating wealth and the poor have become more impoverished in proportion. The conditions mentioned in the letter about the struggle for existence, bigotry, the pursuit of blind materialism, and self interest, they are all prevalent today. Since the time of the letter, we have fought two world wars. There are countless conflicts which are going on in the world. There is a new phenomena which is terrorism. Madam Blavatsky says that only the weakening of the feeling of separateness can bring about change. This feeling of separateness, which is we are completely under its control, and only when that feeling weakens, then the starting of the change can happen. How to weaken the sense of separateness? It is as the Chohan says, by getting rid of the delusion of self, by a process of inner enlightenment. Only then one will suffer when thinking of the suffering of others, and then the reign of justice and equality for all will prevail. When the sense of separateness has weakened, and then we will be able to suffer and empathize, even if you are just thinking of the suffering of others. If we as theosophical students can truly get rid of our egos and for the sake of humanity, strive to truly and literally live as a nucleus of the universal brotherhood, which is at the core of the teachings, and then the burden of the world will be lightened a little. And then, as Madame Blavatsky says, that we can plant the seeds of a golden age where there will be light and love. And that is when we will be carrying out the wishes of the Trans Himalayan Brotherhood of mystics that initiated the theosophical movement and fulfilled the advice that is given by the Mahachohan in this letter. With this, I conclude the understanding of Mahachohan's letter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sonalji. It was a very detailed one, and uh, maybe after the Hindi translation by Sister Meenakshi, if there are some questions or there are some suggestions, we can take up. So I would request Sister Meenakshi to switch on her video and audio, and I can spotlight her. Yeah, over to you, Meenakshi.
नमस्ते सभी को और थैंक यू सिस्टर सोनल जी। महाचौहान के इन विचारों पर हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। आगे वे कहते हैं कि एक बार जब मनुष्य अपनी हठधर्मिता से यानी कट्टर विचारों से, व्यक्तिगत नामों से, अवतारवादी धारणाओं से और वेतन भोगी पुजारियों के बोझ से मुक्त होने के बाद सभी धर्मों के मूल सिद्धांत अपने गुह्य अर्थ में एक जैसे साबित हुए। ओसिरिस, कृष्ण, बुद्ध, क्राइस्ट को परमानंद यानी निर्वाण के एक ही राजसी राजमार्ग के विभिन्न प्रकारों के रूप में दिखाए जाएंगे। हम सभी को अपने अहम भाव से, भ्रामक निम्न स्व से यानी देहात्म भाव से छुटकारा पाना होगा, ताकि हम पारलौकिक दिव्य जीवन में अपने सच्चे स्वरूप को पहचान सके। लेकिन अगर हम स्वार्थी नहीं बनना चाहते, तो हमें दूसरों को उस सत्य को दिखाने का प्रयास करना चाहिए, उस दिव्यत्व जिसे हर धर्मोपदेशक बुद्ध, क्राइस्ट या ईश्वर कहता है, उसकी वास्तविकता को पहचानने का प्रयास करना चाहिए। क्या हमें शेष मानव जाति के साथ उस अभिशाप के साथ व्यवहार करना होगा जिसे जीवन के लिए संघर्ष यानी स्ट्रगल फॉर लाइफ के रूप में जाना जाता है, जो अधिकांश दुखों और पीड़ाओं तथा सभी प्रकार के अपराधों की खरी जड़ है। वह संघर्ष जगत की सार्वभौमिक योजना क्यों बन गया है? ऐसा मास्टर प्रश्न करते हैं। आगे वे कहते हैं कि लोगों को यह देखना सिखाए कि इस धरती पर का सबसे खुशहाल जीवन केवल एक बोझ है और भ्रम है, मिथ्या है, माया है, कि यह केवल हमारे अपने कर्म है जो परिणाम के निर्माण का कारण है, वही हमारा न्यायक है, आने वाले जन्मों का हमारा उद्धार करता है। इस सीख से इस तरह जीवन के लिए महान संघर्ष जल्द ही अपनी तीव्रता खो देगा। कुछ यूरोपीय लोग जो मांस भक्षण करते हैं, जिनमें से कई लूट से लदे हुए हैं, घंटी बजाने वाले हैं, मदिरा सेवन करने वाले हैं, उन लोगों को क्या हमें स्पिरिचुअल टेलीफोन यानी उच्च स्तर का परस्पर भावबोध और सूक्ष्म शरीर के निर्माण को सिखाने में लगा देना चाहिए और लाखों अज्ञानी गरीब और तिरस्कृत दीन दुखी और शोषित लोगों को अपनी देखभाल स्वयं करने के लिए छोड़ देना चाहिए? कभी नहीं। थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को केवल एक जादू की अकेडमी और गूढ़ विद्या का भवन बनने का परवाना देने के बजाय सोसाइटी को उसके दोनों असहाय संस्थापकों के साथ मिट जाने दे। परम आत्म परित्याग के साकार रूप, परोपकारिता, दिव्य करुणा और दुखमयी धरती पर सभी सर्वोच्च सद्गुणों को प्राप्त करने वाले सत्पुरुष गौतम बुद्ध के हम समर्पित अनुयायी, क्या हम थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को कभी भी स्वार्थ की प्रतिमूर्ति का प्रतीक होने देंगे? चंद लोगों को का शरण स्थान बनाने की अनुमति देंगे, जिनके मन में बहुसंख्यकों के लिए कोई विचार नहीं है? यह अजीब विचार है, ऐसा वे कहते हैं। आगे वे कहते हैं कि बोधिसत्व पद्मपाणि या अवलोकितेश्वर और सोमपापा अमिताभ के अवतार अपनी मृत्यु के समय बुद्धत्व की प्राप्ति यानी परमानंद का और वैयक्तिक परम कल्याण का त्याग करते हैं, ताकि वे मानवता के कल्याण हेतु बार बार जन्म ले सके। दूसरे शब्दों में कहा जाए तो जीवन के सभी दुखों में भौतिक शरीर में कैद वे बार बार विपत्तियों का सामना कर सकते हैं, बशर्ते कि ऐसे आत्मत्याग से लंबे और अवसादपूर्ण शतकों के दौरान वे शायद मानवता के अनेक जातियों में से कुछ गिने चुने मनुष्यों के मोक्ष और परमानंद पाने का साधन बन सके। हम जो इन परिपूर्णत्व को प्राप्त लामाओं के शिष्य हैं, हमसे थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को मानस शास्त्र का यानी मनोविज्ञान का साधारण विद्यालय बनने के लिए, मानवता के बंधुत्व को छोड़ने के लिए, सोसाइटी के महानतम उद्देश्य को छोड़ने की अनुमति देने की अपेक्षा की जाती है। नहीं मेरे अच्छे बंधुओं, सोसाइटी के लिए कार्य करने के उदात्त विचार को जो भी पर्याप्त रूप में समझने के लिए स्वयं को लायक नहीं समझता, उसने अधिक गंभीर कार्य को स्वीकार नहीं करना चाहिए। आगे वे कहते हैं कि इस दिव्य कार्य को भारत में प्रभावी रूप से करने में हमारी मदद करने वाले उस महान और निस्वार्थ व्यक्ति का कर्ज चुकाने के लिए हमारा सारा अतीत और वर्तमान संपूर्ण ज्ञान भी पर्याप्त नहीं हो। सही मायने में धर्म और तत्वज्ञान में हर समस्या का समाधान प्रस्तुत करना चाहिए। दुनिया नैतिक रूप से इतनी बुरी स्थिति में है कि किसी भी सभ्य जातियों के धर्मों और तत्वज्ञान में भी सच्चाई नहीं थी। यह एक निर्णायक सबूत है। महान द्वैत सिद्धांत सही और गलत, अच्छाई और बुराई, स्वतंत्रता और निरंकुशता, दुख दर्द और सुख, अहंकार और परोपकारिता की समस्याओं के विषय पर सही और तार्किक स्पष्टीकरण जितना 1881 के पहले असंभव था उतना आज भी है। वे समस्या के समाधान से उतने ही दूर है जितने की कभी थे, लेकिन इनके लिए कहीं ना कहीं एक तर्कसंगत समाधान होना चाहिए। और यदि हमारे सिद्धांत इसे पेश करने की क्षमता दिखाएंगे तो दुनिया सबसे पहले यह स्वीकार करेगी कि वह सच्चा तत्वज्ञान, सच्चा धर्म, सच्चा प्रकाश ही है जो सच और सच के सिवाय कुछ नहीं देता। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
Thank you, Meenakshi ji. I would request Sister Sonal to be here, and anyone who has any suggestion, maybe he or she can add, or any query you want to discuss with Sonal ma'am, you can put it in the chat. We can read, or you can keep your audio video on, and we can add you on this link. We can discuss. Yeah, Sonal ma'am. It was good. It was good to hear out the Hindi version also. Anything which you couldn't touch upon, or you wanted to, say in few words, your concluding things also. Maybe there are no one raising a question or suggestion, so you can conclude and then we'll do the prayer.
I think this is a very important letter, as I've said earlier, because it tells us the true path of theosophy. It tells us who is the true theosophist, what is the path of service, why the world needs this now more than ever, and what is the future of the Theosophical Society if we follow the charter that is given by the Mahachohan. And then at the personal level, how the rebirth in spirit by removing the ego happens, and how they are the Buddha is at the head of our hierarchy, and his message of the divine love and the compassion, which is so evident in all the incarnations that he had taken, and shortened his journey to Buddhahood by acts of supreme self-sacrifice. And that happened because inherently there was no sense of separateness that the Buddha had. It seems that when he spoke also, his aura would be there, miles in radius from him, and all those beings, living beings who came in contact with the aura would be enlightened. And that is because there was this desire, and in him compassion which was overflowing from him. The struggle for life that the Mahatmas have mentioned, I think that is something that is there in us, that's inherent in our brain and in our DNA. And so we have to only be aware of that. And by slowly reducing the hold of the lower four quaternary that is there on us, so that the light of buddhi can illumine ourselves. And so I think it's a very important letter, and we can study again and again. See, Jindraddas says that every time he read it, it was like a new phrase or some new insight that would just illumine himself. That is what C.
Right, right.
Jindraddas has said. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful conclusion. I think this is a great message for us, all of us, each of us. Thank you. Thank you for taking up this session. I thank you for on behalf of all the audience sitting here, and we would look forward to listen more from you. Okay, thank you. Be available for Indian sessions on any other topic if you have. Okay, thank you. Let us go for the concluding prayer, and then we'll close the session. Asato ma sadgamay, tamaso ma jyotirgamay, मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Thank you, everyone. We will have a next session on Sunday. So see you all on Sunday, 6 p.m. at the same link. Thank you. We are closing this session for now.